Hello, another video from helium.com.cy. I'm going to try and keep it short. Today we're going to talk about antennas, and I'm going to show you and prove to you the difference between antennas and DBI when you install an antenna. Spoiler alert, if you put your miner's antenna high up, you don't need to change your antenna, almost regardless of what antenna you have. So let's have a look at what antennas there are out there. We'll look at Rack Wireless that can deliver to Cyprus in about 2 weeks. And we'll look at Helium antennas from McGill Microwave. This is where I bought mine. You can click on antennas or Helium products. We'll look at their Helium antennas. These ones are tuned. I wouldn't recommend a high gain. I'll explain why. I would definitely recommend, if you are getting an antenna, that you do get a tuned one that is designed for outdoor use. These fiberglass ones. Stay away from some of the Chinese products, especially those 12 dBi ones. If they're not tuned, you're probably losing a lot of signal around the frequency that basically is useless. But I will show you the difference on some installations that have this particular antenna. This is the one I installed, and the stock antenna from Bobcat miners. So let's have a look at the Bobcat miner antenna. We'll look at the product. Here there's a few screenshots right at the end. If you haven't seen one of these already, this is what it looks like. It's got a magnetic base, and the antenna itself is a 4 dBi, but it's very small. As you can see, it's just this here. It's not built for outdoor use, but lots of people are using it outdoor. You should just shield the little part where this connects, because it's got a little piece of metal that could get rain damage. But we don't know how long this will last outdoor with the sun and everything, but chances are it will last long enough, and then you can change it if something happens. But the fiberglass ones are obviously built for outdoor usage. Let's have a look now at a few installations that are using different kind of antennas. And I'll explain the difference in the dBi. If you haven't read this already, the higher the dBi is not more power. Even though it's called gain, what actually happens is the spectrum of the antenna, just like a flashlight, becomes narrower. So that means the signal can go further away. But as it goes further away, it will actually skip nearby devices, because it's narrow, it goes far, but it loses that range, the spherical range that a low dBi antenna would gain. So we're looking at this device that's installed pretty high up in Famagusta. We can see that this is a high gain antenna. It's registered as 8 dBi. I think it's even higher than 8. We can see that because of its strategic positioning, it is able to receive some of the nearby devices. So it's pretty much at the same height at these devices, and it can still find them. If it went even higher, because it's a high gain antenna, it might miss these devices nearby. But it's definitely achieving to do something quite brilliantly. It's bouncing off the water and going all the way to Beirut in Lebanon, and it's even picking up this one near Giberunda in Cyprus. It's picking up a few in the north, which are elevated because of their great position along this side of the mountain. But it's not picking up some other devices that it could, which are nearby. We'll have a look at a few more use cases. Let's have a look at this one. This is registered as a 5.8 dBi. We can see that the performance of this one does not go to Beirut, picks up a lot more nearby, and picks up the ones in Nicosia. So the spherical nature of this antenna is a little bit more less narrow. So the first one is more of a donut shape in 3D, and this is less donut. It's got a more spherical sense. So even though it doesn't need a lot of height, this antenna is getting devices nearby. Let's have a look at another really interesting use case. It's registered as a 2 dBi antenna, and you can see the number of witnesses this one is getting is 72, whereas the other two is 50 and 38. So arguably this one is a lot better performing because of how many witnesses it can get, how many devices it can connect to. Now, bearing in mind that the quality of the witnesses here are not as good as the quality of the witnesses here. This device is getting witnesses that live in a non-clustered environment, and thus is getting the benefits from the witnesses which are not clustered. So despite being less witnesses, it's earning more. Now this particular unit is getting a lot more witnesses, but is actually achieving to connect to all the devices which are in clusters. And as per HIP 15, this means that the performance that it's receiving is not as good, so the rewards are not as good. But since this is a video about antennas, let's discuss a 2 dBi antenna. This is actually registered as a 3 dBi. I know the person who put this up. This is an RG58 cable, 17 meters. It's a terrible quality cable, lots of loss, and a very low dBi antenna, 3 dBi. So he's registered it as 2 because he's obviously losing from there. But as we can see, it's performing really well in the way that it connects. And that's the big difference between a good quality antenna, good quality cable, and basically the dBi on the antenna. What is it? It's nothing. In other words, this unit is high up. It's on a metal pole on top of a building with a really bad cable, stock antenna, not even the good Bobcat antennas, and it's performing equally well, if not better. So what's the lesson here? Is that if before you invest in a new good quality cable or good quality antenna, you definitely need to invest in getting this hotspot of yours high up. Let's have a look at another example. This is me. I've actually changed my setup. I had a Bobcat that was a stock antenna 4 dBi, and it was at the balcony of the second floor. I've changed it. It's now on the roof, but I've also put a 10 meter LMR 400, and I've also installed a 6 dBi McGill microwave tuned antenna. I'm very happy with the results. This is more of an experiment for me. With this particular antenna and the height that I am getting pretty much every single witness around in my area. My witnesses increased from 62 to 126 in 5 days, and I'm also starting to reach areas that I could never reach before. Mostly because before the building's back was towards the southwest, so I was only getting northeast results, but I wasn't getting these results over here, and these are very good witnesses which have less clustering. So now I'm benefiting from less clustered witnesses plus a lot more witnesses in my area. Now that I've gone to 126, my daily earnings are pretty much doubled. I am facing a problem with resolution 5 and of course resolution 6, which you'll see about in other videos. What's important here is that my case study benefits from the natural height that I've put, but also the change of cable and antenna. That triple combination is obviously the best thing you can do. But like I said, you don't actually need to do anything. Bad cables, cheap cables like RG58, which have a lot more loss than LMR 400, for example, or even the stock little antennas that you get with, for example, Bobcat or some other devices. This might be a Bobcat that was marked from 4 to 2. I may be mistaken. Some other devices nearby here, I can't remember the names, are actually 3 dBi and pretty much perform in the same way. So yeah, make sure you put it really high up, have a clear line of sight, and hopefully you won't connect to a cluster and you'll get more rewards, but it doesn't matter as long as you're benefiting in the expansion of the network. Thanks for tuning into this video. More soon.